Hi, everybody. It's Marcus Collins from MMA Properties. So it's almost tax day, which means January, February, and March 2024 are in the books. And so it's time for us to take a little look at what happened in Q1 2024 in the Arlington real estate market. I'm going to show you lots of information this evening, but perhaps you need more. Perhaps you need more than just Arlington. Perhaps you want to look at some additional stats. And so I thought I'd give you a sense of where you can find this information, but as well as that additional information. The first place to go, and really to get the current information, is to go to maproperties.com, our website, and go to the statistics tab. And there you will find a page looking like this, but with a lot more statistics on it. So we've got more stats on that page, but also we've got more than just Arlington. We've got about 50 different towns. So if you're outside Arlington looking to move into Arlington, or in Arlington looking to perhaps downsize to another town in Greater Boston, take a look at this information on this page. We may well have the town you're interested in. As I say, we've got about 50 different towns on this website, on the website. Additional to that, there is the Arlington Market Review 2023-24. We do this every year. Lots of information in this booklet. It's now on our website. So if you go to the Communities tab on our website, go to Arlington, you will find the information within this agenda, within this booklet. It tells you a lot about what happened in 2023, but also opens up the predictions for what we anticipate will happen for 2024, because we're only in Q1, and of course we've still got three quarters to go of the year to go. So lots of information in there. Somewhat backward looking because it looks at 2023 and historically, but also there's some predictions there for 2024. Okay, now for the agenda. I'm getting ahead of myself. All right, I'm going to take a look at the single family market. Then what I want to do is give you a kind of wider perspective. What's happening in the wider world, if you will, and how is that impacting the real estate market in Arlington? And then we'll get our crystal ball out and give you a sense of where we see the rest of 2024. Okay, so let's take a look at single family. I'm going to show you lots of graphs this evening. Let me just show you one straight away. You will see 2024 year-to-date information. Clearly, it's only for the Q1. And Q1 is in general about 20% of the market, of the total market. So, if you get in terms of the number of sales in Q1, about 20% of what we would expect for the year in total. So the absolute numbers are not that important, but looking at some ratios is where we can get a sense of where we expect the market to go for the rest of the year. So first things first, let's look at the number of homes sold. In this graph, blue is existing homes, the green is a new construction, and then that orange color are the off-market teardowns. That is those homes which are bought off-market by developers and then converted down and then converted into new construction. So that's what you see there. The most important thing about this graph is not really what's going on in 2024, it's actually what happened in 2023. So let me highlight that for you. You can see that during COVID and actually prior to COVID, we were running in 250, 240. We rose to almost 300 existing home sales in 2021. That reduced slightly to 270 with a total of 300 in 2022. But look what happened in 2023. We went from best part of 300 home sales all the way down to 225. That was a huge reduction in the number of homes that were actually listed and that sold. And the primary reason for that is the rise in interest rates in late 22 and throughout 2023. It really put the brakes on the market from both the buyer's perspective in terms of what they could afford to buy, but perhaps more importantly, from the seller's perspective in that they decided not to move. They decided not to buy that next home, that downsizing home. They decided to stay with the 2, 3, 4% mortgage that they have because they didn't want to swap it for a 7 or 8% mortgage. So that's why we saw that dramatic reduction. Now, as we kind of look forward and start looking at 2024, a better sense of where we expect that to be, where that number to be is got really from the cumulative home sales. So in this graph, the blue is the cumulative home sales organized by under agreement date, sold date, because there's about a 4 to 6 week time difference between under agreement date and sold date. And I want much more up-to-date information. Sold is, in some respects, certainly in terms of cumulative, a little bit of a backward-looking metric. So do it by under agreement date. As you can see, we're slightly higher. So blue is 2023. The pink color is 2024. And as you can see, we are up in 2024 versus 2023. No surprise if I can kind of skip back a slide. Hate to do that, but give me that leeway if you would. You can see that we saw a dramatic reduction in the number of home sales, unprecedented really, in Arlington, no matter how far back you go. That number of about 225 home sales, very, very low in comparison to say any historical norm. So we would expect more home sales in 2024, and it looks like we are up slightly. We can get a sense of that, I think, as we look at some other metrics, but we're around about 20% of the home sales have occurred in Q1 24, if you think about the 2023 total sales. So I would expect that to be a little lower. If you look at Lexington, for example, it's around 16%. So the implication of that high number is that we're going to expect more home sales in 2024 than we did in 2023. To say, I have some more metrics when you look at new construction luxury that hints at that also. So it does look like in 2024, we will see more home sales and more homes listed than we did in 2023. You can see that dramatic reduction in the number of homes listed in this case, not sold, listed here. You can see that reduction from 335 in 2022. A number didn't sell, by the way, so that's why that number is so high, down to 241. That's a big difference. We're already at almost 60, so as you can see, that's about 25%. So it does look, based on this metric too, that we are going to see more home sales or more homes listed in 24 than we did in 2023, which is a good thing, especially if you're a buyer in this market. So that's the sell side of the equation. Let's take a little look at the buy side of the equation now, and a couple of metrics which are important in looking at buyer confidence in the market. The first one is days on market. Pretty straightforward. How long does it take a home to sell? It does look slightly higher in 24 than 23, but caution on this one. The early part of the year, often what happens is some of the home sales in 2024 were actually listed in November or December 2023. Very slow time in the real estate market. So that metric of days on the market always tends to be higher in Q1 than we would expect for the year in total. So I would expect that number to dip down. It may not go to 22 because we may have more home sales, which means a little bit more competition, a little bit less competition from the buyers. But I would expect that ratio to kind of drop down, perhaps to mid-20s, somewhere like that. So don't be put off by that number as we kind of track this moving forward, and you follow on masterclasses, you'll be able to see that number come down. The other metric we look at is the sell price to list price ratio. That is, imagine a home comes on the market at 800,000, sells for 800,000. That's 100% sell price to list price ratio. Arlington has traditionally been higher than the 100%, 102, 103, sometimes 104 historically. It jumped to 109 and 108 during COVID, and is now dropping back down to those numbers, historical numbers. I do think the 104 that we've got year to date in 2024 is a little low. Same rationale for days on the market. There are homes that sat on the market over the winter. Sellers took a lower price. There were some price reductions. Therefore, the sell price to price ratio was below 100, with some of those sales within Q1. So I would expect that ratio to pull up 1 or 2 percentage points, perhaps. Not quite to 108, 109, I don't think. but certainly up to kind of, mid 105, 106 perhaps. So that's be somewhat depressed. Days on the market is somewhat inflated. So that's kind of what's going on. If we look at now breaking this down by month, you can see that the early part of 2023, even with interest rates rising, was very buoyant. But it wasn't until the kind of middle of the year, it's almost like the brakes came on. You can see there in May it was 111, and in June it was 104. It's a big difference right in the middle of the spring market there. Almost the brakes went on the market as interest rates got higher and higher. And so we ended up the year around about 102% second half of 2023. Now, looking forward and bring that forward now to 2024, you can see we're running around 103%, which is kind of interesting. I would have expected it to be a little bit higher. But we'll see how it plays out for the rest of the year. I do anticipate that ratio will rise as the year goes on. It almost always does in a relatively normal market, as the year goes on. So turning our attention now to average prices, what everybody cares about, I guess. Quite a large jump. We did see a slight reduction in the average price in 2023, not by very much. We went from 1.236, he says, reading it, to 1.224, so basically no change. But we've seen that rise quite suddenly, up to 1.3 for 2024. We'll see if that remains. It's actually true of the median too. So this isn't one or two home sales skewing the data. We don't have that many home sales as you saw before. Sometimes one or two high-priced home sales can skew the data. But looking at the median, that doesn't seem to be the case. So it does look like we have seen a jump in prices in 2024 in comparison to 2023. So we'll be keeping a close eye on this to see if that is the case. If it wasn't just some new construction and some higher price homes selling in Q1, and we get back to the normal market activity in Q2, 3, and 4. But right now it does look like we've seen a kind of an increase in the average sale price, which is interesting. And I'll show you more. I'll break out new construction and existing home sales in a couple of slides. In terms of new construction, in terms of home sales, 21 last year, 20 the year before, we're already at 8. So that's a great ratio. This, given that we would expect, 16 to 20% should sell in Q1, we've sold 8 already. So that does imply that we are going to see more new construction sales in 2024 than 2023. Just because 8 sales implies, we should see more than 21. So that's a metric which is beginning to validate, if you will, that we're going to expect more home sales, in this case, new construction, than we saw in 2023. The same is true of the luxury market too. Luxury, I define luxury, I should put a definition on luxury first, is over $2 million. So we saw a lot of over $2 million homes, as you can see in 2022, dramatic increase, in fact, dropped right back down in 2023. And it looks like now 11 in 2023, 5 already in 2024. So, we would expect that's almost 50%, and that's too high a ratio for Q1. So it looks like that we're going to see a lot more new construction, luxury homes selling in 2024 than 2023. We may not get to the numbers we saw in 22. Seemed unlikely, I think. But it does look like that we're going to see more luxury over 2 million, that is, over $2 million sales in 24 than we saw in 2023. Here's that graph that breaks down new construction average versus existing homes. There's a lot going on in this one, so let me kind of explain. The orange bar chart is new construction. As you can see, 8 home sales year to date. The blue line is the average new construction price. So that's quite interesting. It rose dramatically during COVID, as did many times around. That's not unique to Arlington. Leveled off in 22, then reduced in both 2023 and year to date, 2024. which is, it's interesting that new construction is down. In some other towns, we've seen it pick up. We did see a reduction in 2023 in some respects because of excess building by the developers in some other towns. But that's actually rebounded in 2024 year to date. So it's interesting to see that new construction price beginning to decline over the last 2 years. Interesting to see where that goes for the rest of the year. Now, what's more important for sellers or for people living in Arlington, of course, is what's going on with non-new construction, existing homes. You can see this graph, you can see that slight dip that we saw in 23, a consequence of buyers really not having the resources to be able to buy homes in the town. And then it's risen again now to about 1.2 million for existing homes. So we're back at about the 2022 numbers. So that's kind of where we are in terms of average prices. Slight uptick in the average price of existing homes, a downtick, if you like, in the new construction homes. We'll see how that kind of plays out as we kind of go to Q2, 3, and 4. So let's kind of turn our attention to what's happening and why we've seen what we see and perhaps see what we're seeing today in terms of this kind of wider perspective. And no surprise, the big driver, if you will, or perhaps big break, if you like, on the market has been mortgage interest rates. This is since 2010. You can see that rapid rise that we saw in 2020, late 22 and 2023. The challenge for existing home sellers, existing homeowners, is that their existing mortgage, probably refinanced or when they bought, is around about that 3% mark. And so why would I swap a 3% mortgage for now a 7.5%? It's about 7.8% right now for a 30-year fix. Why would I swap a 3% for almost a 7% mortgage? And that's why we saw dramatic reduction in the number of homes listed. That is the reduction in the number of sellers that put their home on the market. Can I narrow into that, see what's happening right now? You can see that rapid rise in late 22 and all of 2023. But what's interesting, if I can kind of highlight the area here, it peaked in late 23, dropped, but's now leveled off. It kind of fluctuates by a relatively small amount week by week, and this is a weekly graph. But we've seemed to have kind of got stuck in that number. In terms of where the predictions are, you can treat these predictions with a grain of salt if you like. I have to say, they change monthly, and they're not that accurate as I've kind of looked at this. The green bar here is the predictions. This is from the Mortgage Banker Association. They're not that accurate, I have to say. We've watched these for a long time, and they're not that accurate. But it's kind of, let's take it for what it is today. And specifically buyers, they've got to look at something to see where, and sellers to some extent too, they've got to look at where interest rates are going. You look at a prediction. And they do look, all the predictions show that they're declining. The question, I think, comes, they will decline, but at what rate? Certainly buyers are looking at this, seeing that reduction, and at the very least, they're thinking, I can buy a house today and I can chase interest rates down with refis. Existing homeowners are still in the position of, well, I'm at 3% today. Do I really want to swap it for even a 5.9% in early 2025? And so there's kind of the same problem, but a different perspective from the buyer and from the seller. So that's the mortgage interest rates. That's kind of the big break, really, the driver in the market. In terms of now COVID, the effects of COVID have declined on the housing market. We are back to the demographic changes. You will have seen this graph before if you listened to a presentation I've done in the past. This population pyramid shows how many people are of what age. And the bars that I've highlighted are, and this is specifically true of Arlington, downsizers is the bar, the kind of 55 to 64, that bolus of people there, they are the downsizers. And then the lower bar, yellow bar, are the first-time home buyers. And the price point in Arlington, although it's risen dramatically over the last few years, is still, to some extent, first, maybe a second, maybe first into a condo, and then condo into a single family market. So it is still, even with an average price of 1.3 million, a perhaps not a first-time home buyer market, but a second, out of a condominium into a single family, for example, market. Like the likes of Winchester and Lexington, where the average house price is about 1.8. That's a second or third move-up buyer market. So this is the primary driver in the market. Mortgage interest rates are the kind of the constraints that are imposed on this. But now we are returning as the effects of COVID begins to diminish. We are now returning to this kind of downsizers moving out of the town, moving to a different house in the town, first-time home buyers coming in to those homes that are listed. And it really is the logjam that we need to see broken here of existing homeowners, downsizers, move-up buyers, moving into their next home, which kind of frees up housing stock for the first-time home buyers and the condo to single-family home buyers to move into the town. So that's kind of the wider analysis, wider perspective, if you like. Let's take a little look at the predictions for 2024. So let's kind of break these out in terms of buyers and sellers. In terms of buyers, we are seeing more activity and more confidence, perhaps a better way to put it, in the market in 2024 than we saw in 2023. There will still not be enough homes to buy, that's for sure. But there is renewed confidence as buyers think, I put off buying in 23. I really want to do it this year. I'll live with the interest rates for a few years, and then I'll refinance as those rates come down, as they almost inevitably will. The question is really over what timescale. So buyers being more confident, and we're seeing more buyers week in, week out at open houses in the market. So if you're a buyer in the Arlington market, not just the Arlington market, but specifically here in Arlington, expect more competition than perhaps you saw last year, because there are more buyers who sat on the fence in 23 and have decided, I don't want to sit on the fence anymore. Let's move forward and let's worry about the interest rates in a few years' time. Now, in terms of the sellers, we saw that dramatic reduction in 2023 of the number of homes that were listed. And inevitably, there are sellers in the market today thinking, I want to move, when is the right time? Is it in 24 or is it in 25? There looks to be more homes coming on, not as much as we need, but it does look like the sellers are kind of saying, okay, I sat on the fence in 2023. I really didn't want to swap the mortgage for the higher mortgage rate. I will put the home on the market in 2024. I don't think enough will. And I think we're hearing this from sellers too. Maybe I'll wait till 2025 when interest rates are lower. The challenge with waiting till 2025 is we've got this pent-up demand for buyers, but we've also got potentially a pent-up supply with sellers who sat on the fence in 23 and 24. And so we may well see, it would not surprise me to see a relatively large number of homes come on the market in 2025. Now, that's a good thing from the buyers because they've got more homes to choose from. But from a seller's perspective, there is potentially more competition. So for those sellers who are sat on the fence, undecided, want to move, but are perhaps thinking of 2025, I think you should look seriously at 2024 because there will be more sellers in 24, but not enough. There is still a lot of reluctance to swap for that higher interest rate from their existing mortgage. So if you're just sitting on the fence because you don't really understand what's going on, it looks like 2024 may well be the right time to come on the market because we're seeing increased buyer confidence and enthusiasm to buy. So if there are reasons for you to move, wait till 25, then clearly do that. But if it is uncertainty in terms of what's going to happen, it may well be that 2024 is a better year to come on the market because there will be less competition from sellers than 2025, where we may well see more sellers coming on the market. So buyers, look out. There is more competition this year. Sellers, think about whether you want to delay for another year or so, because it may well be that 2024 is the right year to come on the market when there are more homes coming on, but not the bulk of them or the bolus of homes that are going to come on in 2025 next year. So that is the predictions for the rest of 2024. They're not going to give you 2025 predictions. Always did, I guess, didn't to some extent. But that's what we think will happen in 2024. So with that, I want to say thank you. Lots of information, say, on the website. We have lots more information, lots more analysis we can give you on specifically around condominiums as well. For example, I didn't cover those in this masterclass. So if you have information, if you have questions around the condominium market, please reach out to us. We can talk you through exactly what's happening in the condo market as well. So with that, I'll say thank you very much for watching. Any questions, reach out to us. But until next time, bye.